Hello, my artist friends. It's Miss Sarah from Moon Library, and today, for Fine Art Friday, we're going to read a book called Radiant Child. It's the story of young artist Jean-Michel Basquiat, and this was written by Java Steptoe. He also did all of the illustrations for this book, and he painted the illustrations on pieces of wood that he found and harvested from dumpsters in Brooklyn. You can see the wood grain in some of the backgrounds of these illustrations. All right, let's read and learn about Basquiat. Somewhere in Brooklyn, between hearts that thump, double Dutch and hopscotch, and salty mouths that slurp sweet ice, a little boy dreams of being a famous artist. In his house, you can tell a serious artist dwells. As he sits at a table with pencils scattered everywhere, Jean-Michel draws from morning until night with a serious face amid a storm of papers. He refuses to sleep until he has created a masterpiece. At night, images enchant Jean-Michel's mind, and he wakes from his dreams to add one more line. His drawings are not neat or clean, nor does he color inside the lines. They are sloppy, ugly, and sometimes weird, but somehow still beautiful. His art comes from his mother, Matilda, a Puerto Rico woman who designs and sews, cooks and cleans, and makes the house look like a stylish magazine. But most important, she lies on the floor and draws with Jean-Michel on his father's old work papers. From her he learns that art is not only in the poetry books that she reads to him or in the theaters and museums they visit. Art is in the street games of little children, in our style and the words that we speak. It is how the messy patchwork of the city creates new meaning for ordinary things. While visiting the museum, they look at his favorite works of art, reading the story behind each work. This is how Jean-Michel learns what it means to be a famous artist. Back at home, he creates art on the floor as his father, Gerard, plays jazz records. Mama Matilda cooks arroz con pollo and calls Jean-Michel mi amor. The energy and the life of the city can be felt in each line of his drawings. As time goes by, Jean-Michel learns that art has a healing power. After a car accident, he is scared and confused. Matilda gives him a book to calm his fears. It is filled with pictures of bones, skulls, and other body parts. Jean-Michel draws from it until he knows it all by heart, and he is no longer afraid. Back at home, Jean-Michel's body heals, but his heart breaks. His mother's mind is not well, and the family breaks. She no longer lies on the floor and draws with Jean-Michel, but sits by the window singing only to the birds. Jean-Michel is confused and filled with a terrible blues when Matilda can no longer live at home. He tries drawing the terrible out of his blues, but things are not the same. As Jean-Michel grows older, he visits his mother when he can, always bringing his artwork to show, telling her that one day it will be in a museum when I am a famous artist. As a teenager now, Jean-Michel decides, Papa, I will be very, very famous one day. With a sly look and a twinkle in his eye, Jean-Michel leaves Brooklyn for New York City, the Lower East Side, a concrete jungle where only the tough survive. During the day, dressed in a green jumpsuit splattered with paint, Jean-Michel stays with friends, sleeping on couches and floors, leaving a barrage of collages and poem-filled papers everywhere he goes. At night, Jean-Michel spray paints the walls downtown with poems and drawings that catch the eye of artists, gallery goers, and passers-by. Under his art, he signs the name Samo instead of Jean-Michel. Everybody wants to know, who is Samo? Samo moves from street corners to art gallery walls with powerful color composition and line, collaging and painting on anything he can find. His art is still not neat or clean, and definitely not inside the lines, but somehow still beautiful. With his magical charm, Jean-Michel draws a crowd, but when it's time to work, he prefers to be alone, with the radio and TV on full blast. Now, in expensive suits splattered with paint, he flips through stacks of magazines and open books and paints into the night, and sometimes for days at a time, while sounds and images jump into his head. Jean-Michel, an artist among artists, never doubts one line, creating from a soundtrack that is all his own. People describe him as radiant, wild, a genius child, but in his heart he is king, so he draws crowns for himself and others he admires. A grown man now, with the art world in his hands, Jean-Michel still visits his mother. Jean-Michel Basquiat was born on December 22, 1960, and grew up in Brooklyn, New York. His father was from Haiti, and his mother's family was from Puerto Rico. Living in a trilingual household, Jean-Michel spoke French, Spanish, and English. While his father had some artistic skill, it was Jean-Michel's mother, Mathilde, who drew with him and took him to museums. He particularly liked seeing the painting called Guernica by Pablo Picasso in the Modern Museum of Art in New York. Some people think that Guernica shows the suffering of people and animals when warplanes bombed the village of Guernica, Spain during the Spanish Civil War. It is one of the most famous anti-war paintings ever created, a form of activism through art, a piece that shows the power of an artist's voice, which may have inspired young Jean-Michel. When he was about 7 years old, Jean-Michel was hit by a car and badly injured. His mother gave him a copy of Gray's Anatomy, perhaps to help him understand what was happening inside his body as he recovered. This medical textbook became an important influence in his later work. That same year, Matilda began suffering from mental health issues and eventually left the family home, a difficult loss of an important daily role model for Jean-Michel. As he grew older, though, he visited his mother and showed her his artwork, which helped maintain their relationship. At age 17, Jean-Michel moved away from home. He sold postcards and T-shirts of his own design to support himself, and he used whatever he could find as canvas. His first recognized work was a graffiti series created with his friend Aldiaz starting in 1977, tagged with the name Samo. The traditional art world was looking for something new, modern, and connected to street culture, and Basquiat arrived at the perfect time. His first public exhibition was in the Times Square show in 1980, and his first solo show was in Italy in 1981, the year he sold his first painting, which would be followed by many others. He also met and became friends with other famous artists of the time period like Andy Warhol and Keith Haring. Basquiat lived an exhilarating life, but underneath the excitement of his success, he struggled with drug addiction until his death on August 12, 1988, when he was only 27 years old. His paintings now sell for millions of dollars and are collected and displayed in museums all over the world. Basquiat was known for his charisma, energy, and bold, captivating art. His work was often political and expressive, with a strong point of view and message, which is why letters, words, and phrases sometimes appear in his pieces. He addressed topics such as the struggles of everyday people in their fight against capitalism, colonialism, and those with power. His work also spoke from Black culture, including influences from African and African diaspora art, religion, history, and folklore, improvisational jazz, bebop, hip-hop, sports, and the melting pot culture of New York City. Like many artists, Basquiat used motifs, recurring subjects or ideas, in his painting. See if you can find examples of these motifs throughout this book. For Basquiat, crowns represented many things, such as power or strength, and he often gave crowns to others in his work as a sign of respect. Eyes often represented remembering, seeing, or understanding the past or the present. Cars, trucks, and airplanes often symbolize Basquiat's childhood and the car accident that badly injured him. And lastly, here's a note from the author, Javaca Steptoe. I first became familiar with Jean-Michel Basquiat's artwork when I was in high school, and even more so in college. Like Basquiat, I spent time with a diverse mix of people in New York City's Greenwich Village. It was there that I saw his graffiti and posters and read about him in the New York Times article, New Art, New Money, and I even went to one of his art shows. Basquiat's success seems to me to begin an era of inclusion and diversity in fine arts where there had been little to none. This meant as a young African-American artist coming up that my chances of having my voice heard and achieving mainstream success were majorly expanded. But it wasn't until much later, at an exhibit in the Brooklyn Museum in 2005, that I truly understood how much his work meant to me. It made me realize that I wanted to help young people connect with his art the way that I had. I also wanted young readers and the adults in their lives to be able to use Basquiat's story as a catalyst for conversation and healing. As someone whose mother suffers from mental illness, I believe this story touches on an important topic, as diagnosable mental disorders affect about 1 in 4 adults in the United States every year. Most important, I hope that young readers will see that Basquiat's artwork is more than just bright colors or intriguing composition or text. It is thoughtful, powerful, and interesting. And like all artwork, it is not something that is good or bad. His art was his voice, which he used to speak about complex social issues and politics that are still relevant today. Instead of reproducing or including copies of real Basquiat paintings in this book, I chose to create my own interpretations of certain pieces and motifs. By painting them on textured pieces of wood, blending his style with mine, my goal was to show how his work has inspired me and to give young readers a sense of his artistic style. I hope they will want to learn more about him and will look for examples of his actual work online and in museums. Jean-Michel Basquiat went after his dream of becoming a famous artist with all his heart. There is no doubt he made a mark on the world and encouraged others to do the same. And that mark matters, especially to artists and storytellers like me. Jessica Steptoe. In your kit, you guys receive some blank paper and an assorted grouping of crayons. I want you to pick one crayon at random. We're going to do a contour drawing. Right now, I'm doing a contour drawing of myself. You can see me in the mirror. I wanted to set it up so you could see what I was contouring and my hand moving at the same time. So contour drawing, you're looking mainly at your image that you're drawing. You can see me, I'm sneaking peeks at the paper and not so much at the paper. And you don't want to take your pen or your pencil or your crayon up off the paper. You're basically doing an outline. It's like a really fancy outline. So you can get lots and lots of details. And you kind of get the curve, all the little curves, and all the little bits. You could do this of yourself. It would be a self-portrait then, like I'm doing. Or you could draw somebody else. So it would be a portrait of somebody else. So here's my contour drawing that I did. And I'm kind of going to go a little crazy with my crayons and kind of just add to it and embellish it. So I kind of want to think about what I want to say about myself. Or what do you want to say about the person that you are doing a portrait of? What can you say with different kinds of lines and colors and shapes and how you use the materials? My contour drawing only included my glasses, so I wanted to make sure I got my eyes in there because I'm thinking about all the different things that I see, all the words that I can read with my eyes, and the way that these words and maybe things that I'm listening to or reading or seeing can impact me. So Basquiat used a lot of collage. So I included some papers in there too. Remember, he used an anatomy. He used a Gray's Anatomy book. So I don't have a Gray's Anatomy book, but I do have some really cool anatomy pages. So you guys are going to get a random piece of anatomy, some music, and also some maps. So I'm going to grab these hands that were in this textbook. I'm going to add these to my image also. You can also take words, maybe from those pages or for something else. And I'm thinking about holding this music in these little hands that I've got. And how sometimes when you just hear music or sing music or play music, you can feel like you're holding it with your hands or your whole body. So I'm just going to kind of go crazy and start cutting and gluing. You can use a glue stick. And I'm thinking, oh, how can I show that I'm singing? I'm also cutting up this map. Maybe I'm thinking about how music can make me feel like I'm going different places without actually going there. Maybe I can give myself a musical mask or a map mask or some map eyebrows. I don't know. There's so many different options depending on what you want to do and what you want to say. And this is yours, so you can go wild. And like the author said, we're not judging good or bad. We're looking for meaning and how you can maybe represent yourself or the person whose portrait you're doing. Maybe I'm wearing this music like a necklace all around my neck. So we can add and glue and cut. And remember, Basquiat also used a lot of words in his artwork, words to describe what was going on, words to communicate. And so you can think about words that describe your portrait of yourself or of somebody else, maybe something else that you want them to say, maybe something that they think is important, right? And I want to see and feel and hear. Ooh, what do I want to see and feel and hear? The music. Can I feel it in my fingers? I'm giving my fingers some little electric waves, some sounds, and some music. And you can add extra colors. And I want to make sure people can see that I'm looking with my eyeballs. And maybe we're traveling. And I can write the word "speak" of love on my mask. So I hope you guys have enjoyed learning about Basquiat. Take your time with your portraits. I did mine all on fast forward because you don't want to watch me do this very slowly. But enjoy, and I'll see you next time, artists.